Okay, good afternoon, Shaikh. I hope I think it's I pronounce the name good, Shaikh Hosein.
Yeah.
Welcome to the White Video. We're going to talk about the low Earth orbit operators. But before we start, you are new in the White Video for the CANTO. We're not a new member, but maybe you can introduce yourself. Who is Shaikh? And then we can pick from there.
Thank you, Vincent. Different people, when they see my name, they pronounce it differently. So you're not doing too badly. But
Okay.
the correct English pronunciation would be Sheikh.
Sheikh, okay.
S-H-A, break it in 2 syllables, S-H-A, Sheikh, and I-K-H, Ik. It's pronounced Sheikh. But thank you for having me. I'm hoping that we can make this into an interesting subject. My background really is a telecom background. I started in the industry in 1979 as a young technician in training with, in those days it was Telco, that eventually became TSTT, and it's still TSTT today, but I grew up in the industry. And I spent 21 years in various disciplines within the telecom environment, from engineering in the engineering shop to construction to maintenance, many different areas. So what it did was it exposed me to all of the different aspects of operations in a telecom environment. In 1999, I got an offer to work for a manufacturing company called Raychem International, whose main role was material science. And what they basically did was they would research and develop materials. And then from the material that they would have developed, they would create products from them. So everything was very unique to Raychem. In 2000, Tyco Electronics purchased that company and created an outside plant division of Tyco Electronics. So it was Raychem International. They bought AMP, I believe. They bought ADC, several other very popular brands, and formed the outside plant branch of Tyco Electronics. I worked as the sales support engineer for Tyco from 2000 to 2008. After which I moved to the current job that I have with Power and Telephone Supply. And there was a reason for that. As a manufacturer, you are only exposed to the products that your company manufactures. And that's the one that you can help your customers with. But because of my vast experience in the telecom industry, I found it that many times I help engineers and technicians and departments with solutions that I don't sell, but it's because I understood the challenges and I understood the concepts that I'm able to assist by pointing them to where they can find a solution. And it made me realize that if I work for a distributor who represents many different brands, I'll be able to bring more value to my customers, which is the reason why I moved to Power and Telephone Supply where I am today. In helping my customers to meet their challenges, to be able to deliver products on time, understanding all of the challenges with moving materials from manufacturing to the end user, how to assist in providing stock, understanding the items that are in great demand that you can safely stock. So there's a lot of moving parts in getting product to a customer that lots of customers don't understand. But because of my exposure, I understand those. And then because of my understanding of the industry, I know which products are critical. Sometimes a little bolt that one might be throwing away. One little bolt can stop an entire project. So those are little things that you understand along the way. So that's me, that's what I do. And I'm always researching new technologies. I'm always interested in doing things in new ways. I'm always reading up on what's happening in the industry. which is what made me become interested in low Earth orbit networks, because I came to realize that while we might be like ostriches or heads in the sand, thinking that terrestrial networks with fiber optics and all of the 9 yards is where the telecom industry resides and where ICT resides, is a whole new world that is evolving even as we speak in space. And we need to become aware of it, or else we'll get left behind.
Well, thank you for that. And indeed, I've met you with the CANTO, the committees, the vendor committees. And indeed, what you're explaining is indeed your experience with that. And after you sent me the presentation on low Earth orbit operators, I said this is indeed something very interesting, because I didn't know that there were so many providers or so many companies busy with that information. And for me, it was indeed something like, wow, we are busy with it, we're working with it. And as you say, we only look at the fiber or those kind of things, but there is a whole other development. So my question is indeed, you came up with this through your work or through your interest. Tell us more about what is this business about, and what do you see in for the coming years and for our CANTO members to have more, to look at this.
So there's an interesting story that I would really like to share as to what made me become interested in low Earth orbit networks. What led me actually to that information is Elon Musk, by the way. He's a person of interest in terms of technology and what he's doing and why he's doing it. So in my research of Elon Musk, I'm realizing how much money he's spending in research into rocket science and being able to launch his rockets into space at a low cost. So the biggest challenge to launching satellites in space, in orbit, had to do with the high cost of launching a rocket, because that's the medium by which satellites are thrown into space. Now with Elon Musk and several others joining the bandwagon of research and development into low cost launch, what it has done is it has made the cost of launching satellites into space less expensive. I shouldn't say cheaper, but less expensive. And it started a whole revolution, because lots of people are now seeing the potential, the commercial potential of investing in satellites, where you can do so many things with satellites that they cannot do on the ground. There's too many obstructions on the ground. In satellite, you have really free space, and you have the ability to look at the entire globe from orbit and be able to communicate information down. You're able to upload information to the satellites. So it really started me interested in it, and only to realize that Elon Musk is not the only one that is launching satellites up in the air. There is a company that is called OneWeb that was there. It existed long before Elon Musk even started. And that company is a partnership between the British government and the Bharti Group out of India. Now, Bharti Group is the company that owns the largest telecom operations in India. So they understand telecoms. They understand all of the nitty-gritty and all of the challenges of a telecom environment, or terrestrial networks. And it's very interesting that the CEO of OneWeb is one of the owners of Bharti. And a question was posed to him, why are you interested in low Earth orbit networks when it's going to present a challenge to your terrestrial network? And his response was, he don't see it as it being a challenge, but really it's going to enhance terrestrial networks by removing some of the the challenges of backhaul. In a terrestrial network, you really need to connect all your towers, for instance. Your cellular towers need to be connected. You're going to use fiber optics today before you use microwave links. And there was a lot of latency involved in the communication. It keeps getting better. But a fiber optic cable is subject to damage. It's subject to so many different interferences, human interferences and otherwise. Whereas a satellite network that surrounds the globe presents a much more efficient environment to operate with, because not only does the satellite live in isolation anymore. In times gone by, because of how expensive it was to launch satellites, there were only a few. And only a few investors invested in satellites, and they were maximizing it, maximizing the capacity of the satellites. But it has grown. Now it's growing exponentially. And the technology is now that the satellites don't only now look downwards. You don't only have a downward upward link, but they can now network among themselves and create what they call a mesh. So that even if one satellite should have a problem and goes down, it becomes insignificant because all the rest that exists can communicate between themselves to maintain connectivity. So that is what made me realize that this network in the sky is one that if our operators, our terrestrial operators, don't inform themselves of what is happening and try to build relationships and partnerships with low Earth orbit operators, they might find themselves disappearing.
So what you're telling is that this whole new business, okay, indeed, what I know from experience is that satellites was slower, and indeed you rather go to the terrestrial network, but now because of the technology, things are getting the other way around what you're telling, and there is now also a lot of more providers. What I was interesting in the presentation you shared, we will also share it in this video, is that we all know Starlink because that is Elon Musk his company, and the company OneWeb, and in this indeed it looks like Starlink want to be in competition with those terrestrials, and in the other side, no, we have to work together. Where do you see this not ending but moving forward? What is your opinion on this matter, and what are we going to look for in CANTO?
That's a good question you're asking, because there's two different philosophies, one with OneWeb and one with Starlink. Starlink actually have already done trials with direct-to-home or direct-to-device communication. They did trials in Canada and they did trials in the US, where they are proposing to be a direct competitor to terrestrial networks, where they will sell their services directly to consumers, to subscribers. The challenge for them would be to be able to provide home devices that are reasonably inexpensive so that the average subscriber can afford to buy one. So that is their challenge. Otherwise, all of the rest of the technology works. In the case of OneWeb, and keep in mind that that Bharti is, I believe they are majority owned shareholders in the operations, if I'm not mistaken. They come from a terrestrial network background, so they understand. And in the case of Bharti, what they had, what the CEO had mentioned was that he would much rather build relationships with the terrestrial networks and have the terrestrial networks use their low Earth orbit network as backhaul to be able to provide a more efficient transport of communication around the world so that they can coexist together. Just similarly as how you would have your fiber to the home network, for instance, you have the operator building out the infrastructure, and then you have the home network. You have a network within the home that is evolving today from one that was just a connectivity for telephone line, and then it migrated to putting in video on the same infrastructure. Now you have security, and now you have smart home. All of that network is within that home. So you have an outer network, or you have the network of the service provider, and now you have a home network. So in very similar fashion, the low Earth orbit network will be like the outside network, and the service providers, the terrestrial service providers, can be what might be considered that home network in a fiber to the home environment, where each have their efficiencies, and there's no need for one to get so granular that they start increasing their operating cost. So I think it's a relationship that can work, where as technology increases and as the demand for communication reliability gets more and more critical. For instance, video conferencing like we're having today. If you look at the news, sometimes you look at CNN or you look at Fox, you notice that there is a significant latency when there's an interview being conducted between the home office and someone out in the field. You have to wait like 3, 4, 5 seconds for it to respond. So that's latency. And the whole idea is to reduce latency in communications, and it becomes more critical with video. You can use telemedicine as an example, where you have more and more hospitals and surgeons and so on, depending on communication, the internet infrastructure, to be able to communicate with each other while they are conducting an operation. And in such a critical environment, you can't afford too much latency, because 1, 2 seconds can be the difference between life and death. So as the technology evolves, we should not be afraid of it, but we should find ways of embracing it. And that's the reason why I believe that CANTO as an organization should invest time in getting to understand what is out there, and a lot of money is being spent on low Earth orbit networks. I mean, in the billions of dollars. People don't make that kind of money to throw it away, right?
No.
So no, they don't throw away that money. So for so much money to be invested in such an infrastructure, it means that there is success along the way. So I believe that as an organization, CANTO should embrace the opportunity to learn about low Earth orbits. CANTO can even be the catalyst for building bridges between companies such as OneWeb and their membership, their member organizations, and can broker deals. CANTO as an organization, because they have so many operator members, can leverage this power, so to speak, to be able to broker deals with operators such as OneWeb, and maybe even Starlink, and you have others along the way. There are many others. We are just speaking of 2. Yeah.
No, okay, very interesting, and indeed from the Trends and Technology Committee, and we're working closely with the Vendors Committee. In fact, we are almost like operating like one. Indeed, something we have to put there for our members in CANTO. I'm very happy with this talk we have. There will be more with this topic. We will close this for now, because we want to have short, white videos. We can put that out there for our members, get some comments, and then from there we can pick it up together with the CANTO board or the CANTO office. Maybe you have some last remark you want to make in our talk. You talked about why there is so many investment in this technology. So maybe we can close that off, because I find it very interesting what you were talking about.
Yeah, well, the reason why I find it very relevant, it's because you have people now, like ships in the ocean. You can't run a fiber to the ship. You need accurate communication. Airplanes that fly. You have farmers that has farms in very remote areas that is very difficult to connect. And the low Earth orbit networks will be able to reach all of these and have them connected. And because the technology is evolving into a lot of AI, where AI actually helps you to reduce costs and be able to be more accurate with your predictions and all of that. AI is not going to go in anywhere, but for it to be effective, you need for machine to machine and everything else to be connected, for all this data to be moving around and being able to assimilate data. We at CANTO speak about bridging the digital divide, and we have lots of countries within our area, like Guyana, Suriname, even the islands, where you have communities that are not connected. And because it's so costly for a terrestrial network to build connectivity into these areas, they have to use the microwave links as probably the best option. With a low Earth orbit network operator partner, they will be able to reach these communities at a lower cost and be more efficient. So I think in general, the sky is the limit, literally,
Yes.
so to speak. And there are many other areas that, if we think about it, there's benefit in a marriage between LEOs and terrestrial networks.
So thank you for this. We will close this off, and we will certainly take this this topic further, and hope that we can have a discussion on this matter, and indeed do something with it as a Caribbean community and the small islands, the countries, to benefit it for us, and where our people can indeed be part of that development, not only consuming what is giving to us, but also playing a bigger role. So thank you, Sheikh. Thank you, Sheikh, and I see you around very soon.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Yes.